Welcome to the November edition of Northeast Journal. I'm your host, Joe Cullen. Coming up in the next half hour, we're off to see the wonderful Wizard of Oz at Tartan High School. We'll learn about an organization helping those with autism, and we'll meet a local artist who uses his talents to share his heritage. All that and more is straight ahead on Northeast Journal. Hello everyone and welcome to the November edition of Northeast Journal. I'm your host Joe Cullen. Every month on Northeast Journal we give you an inside look at the people and places that make up the northeast section of the Twin Cities. The classic film The Wizard of Oz debuted in theaters 75 years ago. To commemorate this anniversary, Tartan High School's theater department chose The Wizard of Oz as their fall production. Here's a look at the cast as they get ready to take the stage. If you have a feeling you might not be in Kansas anymore, you might actually be in Oakdale, watching the Tartan High Theater production of The Wizard of Oz.
Well, it is the 75th anniversary of the original movie, so it's a great time to tie in that with us. And we've got some amazing seniors this year, so we were like trying to find a show that would be great to go out with. I mean, Wizard of Oz is such a classic, so it was kind of a no-brainer.
Over 40 students are involved in the production. Senior Sean Gulbrenson was excited when he learned The Wizard of Oz would be the fall production.
I think it's a wonderful classic that every school should get the opportunity to do. It's just such a timeless piece. And we are putting our own spin on it like we always kind of do at Tartan Theater. Our motto is educational theater with a twist, so we always kind of put our own little variety on things. So I think when audiences come to see it, they should expect the timeless classic, but with a little bit of a twist on things that'll bring a new life to the production.
Senior Taylor Hafner plays the lead role of Dorothy and even has a real dog with her as Toto.
I really like that I get to dance a lot, and of course I love the dog. Yeah, I don't know, it's a very fun role. Like I get to do fun things like walk on the Yellow Brick Road.
Senior Haley Methner plays the role of Glinda the Good Witch.
I really like the part of Glinda. I love playing these fun, bubbly roles. She's also super sweet and motherly, and yeah, that's very fun to play.
The Tartan production has unique effects throughout the play, including several characters taking flight.
It's definitely a very unique experience, sometimes painful, but very, very fun. We have a lot of trust in our theater with trusting these people to fly us in the air, and with set pieces trusting that the stage crew gets them where they need to be, and as actors having to rely on everybody else. It's not just us up here on the stage by ourselves. We have an entire company of people here to support us.
They're right behind us!
Director Ryan Delacroix recommends everyone comes out to see this production.
Just a couple hours of letting loose of the world worries and having fun and having a good laugh, having a good cry, and just relaxing and having fun.
The Wizard of Oz at Tartan High School in Oakdale runs through early November. Several members of the Maplewood Police Department, along with city staff and elected officials, recently had buckets of ice poured over their heads, all for a good cause though. Producer Mary Klein and photojournalist Jeffrey Wilson have the story.
I talked to Commander Shortreed because he works a lot with the polar bear plunge, so I figured this is just a little bucket of water, so it'll be okay.
The biggest concern for me, aside from a little bit of cold, which I can handle, is messing up my hair.
I think it's really about ALS, and it's a terrible disease that I think a lot of us know people with it, and so it's a great way to raise money and fun at the same time. Some people are really enthusiastic about it, some people not so much.
Maplewood ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Ready? Oh yeah.
management staff. We had the mayor and city manager and fire chief and police chief and a whole lot of other people involved with it. And I think that just speaks volumes for people's commitment to work together in that business partnership capacity. So, and we're going to continue to do that.
The Ebola virus is saturating news coverage. But what exactly is the virus and how big of a threat is it? Producer Mary Klein and photojournalist Jeffrey Wilson recently spoke with an infectious disease expert who helped sort out the information as well as some of the contradictions.
You're not going to get it in the supermarket. You're not going to get it at the gas station. You're not going to get it at your kid's football game.
Dr. Peter Bornstein is an infectious disease specialist for Health East. He says he's talked about the Ebola virus more in the last several weeks than the last several decades.
I don't think that explains the white count going up, though. That's the problem.
The first cases of the virus began near the Ebola River in the Congo in 1976. Although its fatality rate is high at 90%, Dr. Bornstein says the risk of getting the virus in the United States is very low.
I'm having flashbacks to October 2001 when we had anthrax events following 9/11. And at that time, if you may recall, that several people were infected with anthrax in Florida and Washington, D.C., New York City. It was a real thing. People were scared. Panic was everywhere. Every time someone dropped a powdered donut, there was concern that it was anthrax. I think some of the airlines even banned powdered sugar for a while because people were so nervous. This feels exactly like that.
There's no cure for the virus, which causes bleeding, dehydration, and diarrhea, but Dr. Bornstein says providing supportive treatment can be provided to those infected. And hospitals and medical staffs are working hard to prepare for worst-case scenarios.
We have the ability to contain the infection. We have the ability to help people get through it. It's not insurmountable. It takes hard work. Infection prevention is hard work. It's costly. It's time-consuming. It's something people don't think about until they need it. The people at the Centers for Disease Control have saved countless lives, but they don't know who those are because when you're in a preventive role, you're saving the lives of people who will never be identified.
Dr. Bornstein says the nurses in Dallas and the nurse in Spain are the first people ever to be infected with the Ebola virus outside of Africa. Rather than worrying about contracting the Ebola virus, he says more practical advice to take is not to smoke, get a flu shot, and wear your seatbelt.
This is the second time I've had to deal with widespread panic about a novel process that people hadn't heard of before. We'll get through it.
It's time for a short break. We'll be right back with more of Northeast Journal in just a minute.
Some of today's veterans have a new battle to fight. It's unemployment.
The unemployment rate of today's veterans coming home from war is 12%.
That's twice the Heartland average.
Tribute to the troops and the armed forces are asking for your help. Hire today's veteran.
Visit positivelyminnesota.com/veterans.
Welcome back to Northeast Journal. Autism Speaks is a national organization that aims to change the future for all who are on the autism spectrum. Today I'm joined by Karen Edwards from Autism Speaks in Minnesota. And Karen, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
And first off, before we get into some of the things that Autism Speaks does, what exactly is autism? My viewers might be very well familiar. We've done a lot on autism in the past, but just in case, I know people are still sometimes confused when they hear the term autism thrown around. What exactly is it?
Sure. Autism is a neurobiological disorder that affects a person's ability to communicate both verbally and non-verbally. It also affects their ability to socialize in normal situations. And they also tend to have repetitive movements, such as repetitive finger movements, hand movements, or perhaps with their heads. They will have a movement. And autism, it's really hard to detect exactly what it is because it's really called autism spectrum disorder because someone who has autism can be anywhere on a spectrum from someone who is nonverbal. They cannot tell you what they need or want, and they likely will not ever live independently, all the way over to the other end of the spectrum where someone will go to college and they will get a job and they'll sit right next to you and you may never know they have autism, except sometimes you may find that they may say or do something that might not be socially appropriate or the appropriate comment for that time, and you might go, that was strange, and it might just be part of the disorder presenting itself.
Yeah, so it really is a wide range, and thus, like you said, why they would call it a spectrum, because you have such a wide range on there. Now that we kind of know a little more about autism itself, what exactly is Autism Speaks?
Autism Speaks is an organization that was started about 10 years ago by a gentleman who was actually an executive at NBC, who had a grandson diagnosed with autism. And at that time, there really weren't a lot of resources to help him get his grandson the help that he needed. So he started Autism Speaks to really be an advocate for those with autism, to do research, and also create different tools and resources available for those families that had that situation.
Now, Autism Speaks, it's a nationwide organization, but I know most states kind of have their own presence within it. And a lot of people may see, advertising. There's lots of public service announcements that you might see on TV or different billboards and that type of thing. Right. One of the big things around the country is they have walks. And I know Minnesota had theirs in October at the Mall of America. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about this Walk Now for Autism Speaks?
Yeah, each year we have a walk called Walk Now for Autism Speaks, and it is the primary fundraiser for Autism Speaks, and that's how we're able to fund the research and the resources. But more than that, it's also an opportunity for us to celebrate those with autism and also be a resource and a comfort to families and provide a safe place for them to take their family where they're not going to be judged, because many times if you take a child with autism out into public, if they do have a behavior or they act out, people will look at them and they look at the parent like, is it bad parenting? Are you just a misbehaved child? And they really don't understand. But at the walk, it's completely free to just enjoy yourselves, and whatever happens, everyone understands because everyone there is in the same boat. So it's really a nice time, and that's what a lot of it is. Just people enjoy the camaraderie and being able to talk to other parents that have the issues that they're going through and see how they deal with them or what resources they've used. But it's also a time where they can meet, there's 40 vendors and also service providers that are there that are specifically there to help those with autism. So it is one place where if you're wondering about what kind of toys should I be having my child play with, or what are different therapies that are being used, those resources are all there at the mall in one place.
I must add, as viewers of my program might know, I have a young son with autism, so I've been to the last several of these walks, and it's a great experience. You're around other families. A lot of people walk in teams, whether it's with family members or maybe a therapy center, that type of thing. Like you said, there's these resource fairs, or like you said, almost every corner you go to, a lot of great information about schools and even places bakeries that offer foods for kids who are maybe on special diets. We were talking a little bit before the interview, and you were saying, besides the activities during the walk, I usually have different people, maybe even performers in the rotunda. It also kind of ties in with, I know there's even like a sensory-friendly movie that people could attend afterwards.
Yeah, there is. The Mall of America is fantastic in putting together movies in their theater up on the 4th floor that are sensory-friendly. And why that's important is someone with autism, they have different degrees of sensitivity to the different stimuli around them, whether it's light, sound, or other things. So in the sensory-friendly movie, the mall has the lights turned on a little bit higher than you'd normally have in a movie. The sound is turned down a little bit lower, and you're very free to walk in and out at any time.
Well, and we've attended some of those types of movies. They do them around the Twin Cities, and it's really great for families like ours because kind of, as you mentioned, like with the walk, it's just, you don't feel judged, if our son makes a few noises or is excited about something, or like you said, wants to get up and down a little bit. You're not worried about people around you, and we're also empathetic to the other people there too. You hear somebody else making a noise, we're kind of all in the same boat, and you don't, like I said, you don't feel like you're being judged. So it's kind of a great time. And I imagine, unfortunately, we've already missed this year's walk was in October. Usually I preview it beforehand, but if people are interested, I know you'll be doing another one next fall.
Well, and we do it every year, and we really want to invite people to spend this year getting family and friends together to develop walk teams. And you can raise money or just come out and walk in support of your child with autism, or just go out and have some fun. The other thing that we're seeing now, a little bit of change in the walks, is the age levels of the people that are coming that are, that have autism. They're tending now to be a little bit older. Typically, autism is diagnosed between the ages of 2 and 3 years old, somewhere in that area, but it can really be diagnosed at any age. But those kids that were diagnosed at 2 or 3 are now becoming teenagers and young adults. So we now are looking at not only providing resources for the younger kids, but also now we have teenagers, and we have to prepare the community and also employers to understand how to work with our children who have this disability so that they can be welcomed in the community just like anybody else. Because I think one of the things that people think about autistic kids a lot of times is that they're not smart, that there's something wrong with them that they don't understand, and that's completely false. About half the kids have normal to above normal intelligence. They typically can excel at something like singing, dancing, music, balancing, gymnastics. There's something that they are will blow you away at. So it's not an intelligence problem, and it's really, they're sort of trapped inside wanting to communicate and wanting to tell you, and a lot of times expressing it in different ways that we don't normally do. But it's just their way of trying to get their message out.
So what sparked your interest in becoming involved with Autism Speaks?
For me, I have 2 nephews that are autistic. My brother has 3 children. One of them is in pharmacy school, gets straight A's, does great. The next 2 boys, one is 17 and one is 18, and they do very well at school too, but they're both nonverbal. But to the point of, excelling at something. One of my nephews is great with electronic gadgets. And whenever they get a new electronic gadget, whether it's an iPad or a new iPhone, my brother pretty much just hands it to him. He doesn't read, right? But he will take it out of the box and he will put it together. And just recently, my brother was telling me that he had an issue with his iPhone, and he explained to my nephew what the problem was, and he went and fixed it, downloaded the app my brother needed, and then showed him, because he's nonverbal, he couldn't communicate by telling him, but showed him what to do to get it to work. So it's kind of interesting, and I think that, and you probably see it every day too, you learn so much from them every single day. It's amazing what they teach us.
Well, and as there's more avenues now with iPads and things like that, for these, kids or young adults to communicate, we learn that there's so much more going on in their heads than I think we've a lot of times given them credit for. It's just trying to get the ways for them to communicate it to us.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're running short on time, but if people are interested in learning more about Autism Speaks or learning ways that they can help, what should they do? Right,
you can go to autismspeaks.org, and for the walk, there's autismspeaks.org/Minnesota. And you can start putting together walk teams, start raising money, and get ready for next year. Our kickoff meeting is in July, and the walk is typically the end of September or the beginning of October.
Great. Yeah, so I encourage people to visit that website. There's a lot of great information on there. And whether you have a child with autism or you're just interested in learning more about it and ways that you can kind of help out in the community, a lot of great stuff there. So again, that's autismspeaks.org.
Yes.
Right? Well, Karen, I want to thank you so much for stopping by today, and I'm sure we'll probably chat with you again next fall, hopefully maybe in September, to preview the next walk.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And it's time for another short break, but we'll be right back with more of Northeast Journal in just a minute.
Extra DWI enforcement is now being served on Minnesota roads. Getting busted will cost you thousands. Don't be what you drink.
Welcome back to Northeast Journal. An artist in Vadnais Heights is using his talents to share much more than just beautiful artwork. GTN's Lou Lee brings us this story.
As an American, I'm sure a lot of us struggle with preserving certain element of our culture. And in this painting, I want to show that, due to time and space, it is really, really difficult to hold on to certain element, certain aspect of our culture. So in this painting, I'm showing 2 hands trying to hold on to a neck piece, a necklace. This is not any typical necklace, it's actually a Hmong necklace. And it's this is what I use to inspire from. And so this pia, it's called soul lock. The hand is trying to hold on to it, but the neck piece have so many sharp edges, and it's actually cutting the hand, and the hand is gonna be bleeding. So blood is dripping down. The necklace is going onto the hand, it's holding on, a hand is grabbing onto it, but it's carrying so much weight that blood is dripping because the hand's all cut up. I believe that, my identity is based on certain culture norms and cultural values. And the Hmong people, we have a few of those. Bambi is a refugee camp. It's 1 square mile by 1 square mile. And at the peak of all the people coming there to live there, there were about 50,000+ people living in 1 square mile. And that was really hard. The condition was horrible. And so to be a young person growing up in that camp was not fun. Though we don't know anything or we don't know better, it still was not fun. And so for me, I feel like art saved me. The one thing I do look forward to every night is my father. He's a great storyteller. And so he would gather all the kids every evening, every night, and tell stories. And so being the person that I am, I conceived all these images in my head, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I wanted to get these images from my dad's story out. And so I remember asking my father, Dad, Mom, could you buy me paper and pencil, pen, so that I could just draw, get these images out. And because we're so poor, all of us were so poor in the camp, we couldn't afford it. I have 10 siblings, actually 12, 2 girls and 10 boys, and I'm number 10 of 12 kids. So me being the in-between child is really difficult for my parents and me. I was too young to go to school, and I was too old to be babied by my parents because I still have 2 little ones for them to take care of, or they still have 2 little ones. When I made it to the United States in the summer of 1984, and I began school in the 3rd grade, because having come directly from a camp, I never had formal schooling, didn't know the language, didn't know the culture. It was just expected that we have to go to school. And so I went to school, and the only way I got there was my cousins. They came here longer than I did and were in the same age, so they could get me to the bus stop, get me to the school. But after that, I didn't know what to do other than trying to pick up the pattern and I don't know, learn to do the things I need to do in the classroom or in the school. Most of it didn't have a clue. I remember going back to visit my 3rd grade teacher after I graduated from college. I wanted to invite her to my senior show, and I called the school and said, is Miss Erickson still there? And they're like, yes, she is. And I'm like, I was a former student some years back. Can I come and surprise her? Because I want to invite her to my senior show. And the moment I walked into the door, instead of me surprising her, she actually surprised me. When I walked in, she saw me and she said, hey, the artist, you're back. It's really difficult for me to say that I have any sort of talent. I just kept doing these things, drawing and painting and art, because I just love to do it. At times I have friends who said, oh, she's saying you're really good at this. I have teachers who say you're really good at this. But because I was brought up to where my parents never complimented me, or in the Hmong tradition, it's difficult for the elders to give praises because they believe that any kind of praise will prevent future accomplishment. And so they try not to praise their kids so that they could keep raising the bar. My hope has always been to capture elements of what it means to be Hmong. Those of you who don't know the Hmong people, we have been semi-nomadic for the past 300+ years. And so we never settled in one particular place for a long time. And because of that, we have always adopted and assimilate. And so growing up in America, where at one point they said America is a melting pot. You know, whoever you are, when you come in, we all would blend together. And so it got me to think, instead of me blending in, what elements can I preserve so that I'm still uniquely Hmong, yet I am very American. One of my favorite paintings is the Hmong woman sewing the pandang. It's a small piece. It's only 18 by 24 inches, but it has 24 karat gold, pure silver, and copper highlights. And the reason why I created this piece was because I want to honor the Hmong women for their dedication, their commitment toward preserving the oldest Hmong art form that we know of today, and that is the Hmong pandang. And so when I created this piece, I want to show that she is golden. Because without her, the art that we all know today, the story cloth, the pandang, would not be what it is. And so my painting, that painting meant a lot to me because it's the one painting that I feel is long overdue, and that is honoring the Hmong woman for all that they have done. Lately, I've been creating more 3D sculptural form, specifically metal forms. And I move a little bit away from drawing and painting, but this transition is not new. I actually studied more 3D work during my college years. It's just that my love has always been drawing and painting. And you know, when you love something, you're more comfortable at it. And so with the transition, my goal is simple, it's just to try something new, try something different. My work are all around the Twin Cities, both in private and public institutions. You could find a few of my work at Concordia University, St. Paul, at McAllister College. A piece of my sculpture is at North Point Health and Wellness Center on the north side of Minneapolis. A big community art piece is currently at CAPI. The Hmong Cultural Center has a few of my work as well. The advice I could give to upcoming artists is that you are amazing and resilient, and then you do have something wonderful and unique to offer and share to this world of ours. Just continue to practice your skills, surround yourself with people who will support you and who have similar interests to yours. And soon enough, I'm sure the stage will be yours to showcase you.
That's all we have time for. Thanks for watching, and please join us again next month for another edition of Northeast Journal.